I have proof she's been cheating, Amanda, my sister-in-law, declared dramatically as she pulled out an envelope from her handbag. The room's attention immediately shifted to the dining table where everyone gathered. Gasps filled the air as she spread out a series of photos on the shiny wooden surface. I sat quietly at the end of the table sipping my water, watching everything unfold. My name is Sophie Bennett. I'm 32 years old and I was witnessing my husband's family attempt to destroy my 8-year marriage. The irony was not lost on me. The photos showed me meeting different men over the past month, having lunch, coffee, even dinner. In each picture I appeared engaged, smiling, leaning in, sometimes touching their hands. To anyone unfamiliar it looked damning. Amanda, with a mischievous grin, pointed at the photos. Look at these. While David's been working hard, she's been out running around town with other men. She then turned to my husband, David, who sat motionless next to his mistress, Jessica. You don't have to feel guilty about Jessica, Amanda added coldly. And you definitely don't have to give her anything in the divorce. David refused to meet my gaze. His mother, Eleanor, picked up a photo with trembling hands. Sophie, how could you? We welcomed you into our family so long ago. Her disappointment stung less now than it would have in the past, but I simply smiled inwardly. Amanda pressed on. What do you have to say for yourself? She demanded. Calmly, I set my glass down and looked around the table. David still avoided eye contact. His parents looked upset, though I noticed his father, George, seemed more uncomfortable than angry. Amanda, standing tall with one hand on her hip, pointed at the photos again. Nice pictures. The lighting is great. You must have paid a private investigator a lot. Her smirk faded. Is that all you have to say? You're not even going to deny it. I reached into my purse, everyone tense and waiting for tears or a confession. Instead, I pulled out my tablet and placed it on the table. Why would I deny it? I asked, voice steady. These men are all divorce lawyers. I then displayed images of their professional profiles. James Morrison, the top family lawyer in the city. Michael Chin, who specializes in cases involving infidelity. And William Parker, known for handling cases where assets are hidden before divorce. Amanda's face turned pale. David suddenly found his water glass very interesting. You see, I continued, when I found out about David and Jessica 3 months ago, I decided to prepare. She hesitated. You're lying, she said softly, unsure. I activated my tablet again, pulling up emails and signed agreements. That's the great thing about legal meetings, there's always proof. I pointed to the documents. These show my name was removed from family assets 3 months ago, right when David started his affair. Quite a coincidence, don't you think? George shifted uncomfortably. His usual concern was social reputation, but even he looked nervous. James, the lawyer, pressed on. We're willing to be reasonable, he said. Mrs. Bennett helped build this family's success. She only wants her fair share. Amanda snapped, she's trying to ruin us. I remained calm. No, Amanda. I'm just protecting what I helped create. Would you like me to play a recording of you and David discussing how to keep the gold digger from getting anything? Her face went white. David's eyes widened. Yes, I said softly. Your mistress Jessica was quite helpful once I showed her proof you were planning to leave her to secure your assets. Suddenly, chaos erupted. Eleanor was crying, George was demanding to speak to his lawyer, and Amanda was shrieking about betrayal. I sat back, quietly observing my husband's realization that he'd been thoroughly outplayed. James raised his voice, commanding silence. We have documented evidence of attempted fraud. We can pursue criminal charges or reach a settlement today. The choice is yours. David's lawyer huddled with him. I watched the defeat seep into David's posture. Once arrogant and confident, now disarmed. Finally, his lawyer announced he will agree to fair terms. James nodded. Mrs. Bennett has outlined her requirements. He handed out copies of the settlement proposal. I've been thorough but not vindictive. I want nothing more than what I've helped build. Eleanor exclaimed in disbelief, but George placed a reassuring hand on her arm. Sign it, David, he said quietly. We can't risk this getting out. David hesitated, then picked up the pen. Amanda made one last desperate plea. Wait, those photos, they were in public places. She was flaunting these meetings. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Of course they were public. As David signed the papers, I gathered my things. Your lawyer will get the paperwork tomorrow, especially the part about fraud, Amanda. I looked at her shocked face. Thanks for the photos, they'll make great evidence. My heels clicked as I headed toward the door, then paused and looked back. David, your lawyer will see you soon. Read everything carefully, especially the part about fraud. With that, I left in my car, finally allowing myself a small smile. They thought they had trapped me. They had no idea what was coming. The following days were chaos. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages from David's family. Threats, tears, pleas. Amanda's messages swung wildly between anger, despair, and panic. Her latest read, "We're family." But I thought about that word. They hadn't treated me like family when they plotted to leave me with nothing. I ignored her messages and focused on my preparations. James Morrison's office was exactly what I expected. Sleek, powerful, intimidating. I sat reviewing documents as I waited. On time, David entered with his lawyer, flanked by Eleanor and George. Amanda followed, trying to appear confident but clearly failing. Mrs. Bennet greeted me with a nod. Shall we begin? I watched David's face as James laid out the evidence. His pallor deepened with each revelation: shady property transfers, newly formed companies, attempts to hide assets. Eleanor clutched David's arm when her son was mentioned. George looked increasingly uneasy. Are these normal family decisions? I asked, sliding a stack of papers forward. Because these documents show my name was removed from family assets 3 months ago, right when David started his affair. Coincidence? George shifted uncomfortably. James pressed on. We're willing to be reasonable. Mrs. Bennet helped build this family's success. She only wants her fair share. Amanda snapped. She's trying to ruin us. I calmly responded, no, Amanda. I'm just protecting what I helped create. Would you like me to play a recording of you and David discussing how to keep the gold digger from getting anything? Her face drained of color. David looked stunned. I continued, Jessica, your mistress, was quite cooperative once I showed her proof you planned to leave her. Now the room erupted. Chaos, tears, protests. I sat back, watching my husband realize how thoroughly he'd been outplayed. James raised his voice to command silence. We have evidence of attempted fraud. We can pursue criminal charges or settle today. The choice is yours. David's lawyer returned after a quick huddle. He'll agree to fair terms, he said. James handed out the settlement proposals. I've been thorough but not vindictive. I want nothing more than what I've helped build. Eleanor was incredulous. George, ever cautious, nodded quietly. Sign it, David, he urged. We can't afford this to get out. David hesitated but finally signed. Amanda made one last attempt. Wait, the photos, they were in public places. She was flaunting everything. I couldn't help but laugh softly. Of course they were public. As David signed, I gathered my papers. Your lawyer will send the documents tomorrow, especially the part about fraud, Amanda. I cast her a final look. Thanks for the evidence. It'll make great proof. I walked out, heels clicking sharply. As I drove away, I finally allowed myself a small, victorious smile. They thought they had trapped me, they had no idea what was coming. The next few days were a whirlwind of chaos, but I was finally free. 6 months after the settlement, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment, sipping coffee and watching the city wake up. The morning sun cast long shadows across my recently furnished living room, highlighting the fresh start I had carved out for myself. My phone buzzed and I saw a message from Jessica, an unlikely friend I'd made along this journey. You won't believe who I just saw at Riverside Cafe, Jessica texted. Amanda. She actually tried to pretend she didn't see me. I smiled, recalling how thoroughly my family had unraveled after our meeting. Their carefully constructed facade of the perfect family business had crumbled under the weight of their own schemes. George had retired early, claiming health issues, but everyone knew it was to avoid the whispers at his beloved country club. Eleanor had thrown herself into charity work, desperately clinging to her social standing. Amanda, perhaps the hardest hit, had suffered a harsh reality check. Her role in the attempted fraud cost her her position in the family company. Last I heard, she was working as a junior accountant at a small firm, a far cry from her former executive title. My phone rang. It was James Morrison. Sophie, he greeted warmly, Just wanted to let you know the last of the transfers are complete. Everything's officially settled. Thank you, James, I replied. You've been incredible. You know, I added with a smile, in all my years practicing law, I've never seen someone handle betrayal with such strategic precision. Have you ever considered a career change? He chuckled, but his words lingered with me. Outmaneuvering David and his family revealed parts of myself I never knew existed. Strength, cunning, and an ability to anticipate moves before they happened. Later that afternoon I met Laura, my closest friend, for lunch. She'd been my rock throughout everything. We sat in a cozy cafe and she leaned in with a grin. Have you heard? David's been demoted. Apparently, some of his decisions during the divorce didn't sit well with the board. I shook my head. I'm not surprised. He always thought he was smarter than everyone else. Speaking of smart, Laura asked, how's the new venture going? I smiled proudly. I used part of my settlement to start a consulting firm helping women navigate complex divorces and financial disputes. It just expanded, opened a second office last week. She raised an eyebrow. From being blindsided by your husband's betrayal to running your own empire. Who would have thought? Reflecting on the woman I was a year ago, trusting, naive, believing in family loyalty above all else, made me realize how much I'd changed. That woman was gone, replaced by someone wiser, stronger, and more resilient. Not bitter, just grateful for the lessons learned. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Eleanor. I miss you. The family isn't the same without you. I archived it without replying. Some bridges once burned are better left that way. That evening, as I reviewed applications for my firm's mentorship program, I pondered how life had shifted. The family that had once tried to destroy me had inadvertently set me free. Their efforts to leave me with nothing had pushed me to become more than I ever imagined. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Jessica holding a bottle of wine. Our monthly catch-up had become a tradition, a quiet reminder that karma was at work. She settled onto my couch, raising her glass. By the way, David's dating someone new. Poor girl has no idea what she's in for. Should we warn her? I asked, half joking. Jessica laughed. I think she'll figure it out on her own. Besides, I hear she's quite clever with computers. Maybe she'll catch on faster than we did. We shared a knowing look. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about moving forward and letting karma do its work. As the sun set over the city, casting an orange glow through my windows, I felt at peace. The family that had once tried to write me off had unknowingly taught me the most valuable lesson of all. Never underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose. My new life wasn't built on revenge or bitterness. It was rooted in wisdom, strength, and the understanding that sometimes, the worst betrayals lead to the most beautiful beginnings. I raised my glass to the setting sun, silently thanking them for showing me who I could truly become. The story of how my husband's family tried to destroy me became the catalyst for my greatest transformation. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about becoming better.